Hi, I'm Jen, President and CEO of the Chiropractic Educational Network. We've partnered with the FCA to bring you this educational video that will help to enhance the way you interact with your patients. Hi, today we're going to talk about risk and liability and how we can reduce that risk and liability in our offices, specifically related to the job position of being a CCPA. I'd like to start off with the front office position, that front office CCPA position. I like to say that the front desk position is the most important position in the office because you are the face of the office. You're the first person that patient sees when they come into the office. You're the first person that patient hears when they call your office, and you're the last person your patient sees when they leave the office. So really that front desk CCPA position is the make it or break it position in the office. You get to control the flow of the office. You get to control the patients. You get to control what the doctor is doing, where everybody is. You're like the hub of the office. So let's start with that position. And again, how it relates to reducing the risk and liability in your office. The role of the front desk CCPA, as I just said, it's one of the most important positions in the office. It's partly because you're going to interact with the patient more than any other position. Yes, the doctor sees the patients, the clinical CCPA sees the patients, the billing CCPA sees the patient, but again, that front desk position is the hub of the office. An average CA, we're not talking CCPAs, the average CA lasts about 6 months. That's the typical average timeline of a CA in a chiropractic office. This is for lots of reasons, but we're not going to get into those reasons right now. But having that constant flow of new people in the office, this is going to increase that risk and liability in your office because everyone's not on the same page. So with that high turnover rate, some of those office functions have to be combined into one job. And as CAs leave and get hired and leave and get hired, that front desk CCPA, all of that burden, the extra burden falls onto you. So with everything else that you have going on, doing your own job, now you're having to do other tasks and other things in your office. So as the lead position in that front office, as the lead position in your office, you have to know how to perform all of the tasks in the office. Not that you're going to do these tasks per se. You have a clinical CCPA that's going to do the clinical side of things. You have a billing CCPA that's going to do the billing side of things. But as that front desk, you're going to be in charge of the flow of the office. So therefore, you at least have to have an understanding of what goes on in the office, who's doing what, who's supposed to be where, all of those things. Your job is to understand everything about the patient as well, especially their financial information, what insurance they're using. Your job is going to be to get that insurance information, to validate their insurance, know what insurance plans you participate in the office. There's a lot going on at that front desk. You have to balance that with being able to run the office. You run the office, not the other way around. We never want our office to run us. We never want the patients to run us. We have to be in total control of what's going on in our office. Again, to reduce that risk and liability in our office. The more we know, the more we can control, the less chaos and confusion our office will have. The most important thing that you can remember, if you don't remember anything else, is that you run the office. You have to be able to create a high-performance team. A high-performance team means just that. Your team is performing at the highest possible rate. How do you ensure that your office is running at the top rate? Well, all of your team is doing exactly the same thing. This means you have to exceed the expectations of the office. Hopefully you've had a conversation with your doctor. Hopefully you've had training in your office of what those expectations are in your office. Make those expectations and exceed them. You have to be able to pursue your office's vision. That vision is your mission statement. Now, this mission statement typically comes from the doctor when they start the practice. What do they want to achieve in the office? Is it to make lots of money? Is it to get everybody healthy? Is it to see as many patients as possible? It really doesn't matter what the mission statement is, but whatever it is for your office, everything you do has to be based around that mission statement. That's how you pursue your office's vision. All staff has to be engaged and passionate in what they do. When you have a CA that's not trained or licensed to be a CCPA, those CAs tend to not be as passionate in their field. It's just a job. This is why they leave after 6 months. So even your CAs, even your new CAs need to be passionate and engaged in what they do. You can't have a high performance team without everyone being on the same page. This creates a lasting, lifelong, life-changing experience for each of your patients. How do you create that high-performance team? Well, you have to know what you're looking for in your office. That directly relates to your mission statement. What is your office's vision? What is your office's mission statement? Once you get a firm grasp on that, now you can create your team centered around that mission statement. You have to be willing to offer your team some sort of an incentive, whether that's monetary, whether that's, going out to lunch, whether that's a party in the office, whatever it is. But your team has to be rewarded in some way for meeting and exceeding your office's vision. This is going to keep everyone on the same page, and this is going to create ownership in the practice. The more people feel like they have ownership in the office, the better they're going to perform for you and for the doctor and for the patients too. So each employee needs to work just as hard or harder than the owner. If everyone is doing that, you're going to reduce the risk and liability in your office, plus you're going to create a more healthy environment for your patients. Sometimes a doctor's greatest challenge is the staff. So that doctor needs to know where to find good staff. I don't like the doctors hiring the staff. I like the staff hiring the staff, of course with some input from the doctor, but staff knows what staff needs in the office. So we have to be able to train the staff, mentor the staff. We have to be able to motivate the staff so that our staff is exceeding our expectations. You get to set the tone. You get to set the tone of the entire office, that front desk office position, which is one of the reasons why it's so important. You set the tone for the staff, you set the tone for the patients, you set the tone for the doctor. So if that tone of the day is set high, then everyone is going to work at that higher level. We use what's called the ABCs of success. The ABCs of success is just that, ABC. So A, your attitude. Your attitude has to be positive. If it's not positive, your staff will feel it, your patients will feel it, your doctor will feel it. It brings the energy level of your office down. So we want to make sure that everyone has a positive attitude. Actions. Actions drive outcomes. What this means is that what you do in the office, what everyone does in the office, what you do in the office drives those outcomes. Whatever is done, there's going to be an outcome, whether that's patient therapy, whether that's patient treatment, whether that's collecting money, whatever that is in your office, your actions are directly related to what happens, the outcome. B is the basics of customer service. We want every patient to be treated respectfully with love and respect, and we want you to be treated with love and respect. So the basics of customer service is just being pleasant, greeting the patient, giving the patient what they need for success in the office, and ensuring that everything is running smoothly. Every time you go into any other business that you may go through, throughout your day, whatever it is that you're doing, if you don't have good customer service, you're not going to come back to that place of business. You may write a bad review for that place of business. So bring that back into your offices, the basics of customer service. And then C, there's 2 C's, commitment and confidence. We have to be committed to patient satisfaction. Not every patient is going to stay in your office. Not every patient is going to reach 100% of their potential. Sometimes that's because of what the patients do outside of the office, but in your office, we're not always going to have 100%. But your commitment to the satisfaction of your patient is going to help that patient get the best possible care in your office. And then confidence. Confidence in your abilities. As a CCPA, you are well versed in what it takes to be a chiropractic assistant. You are the right-hand person of your doctor. Be confident in your abilities. The more confident that you are, the better you're going to perform in your role, whatever that may be. And again, that directly relates to reducing risk and liability in your office. The better you are at your job, the more you know about what you do and what goes on in the office will ensure that everything is safe and that your patients are safe and getting the best possible care. When you start out your day, you want to be able to know exactly what's happening during the day. Who's coming in, what type of patient is coming in, how many new patients you have, how many re-exams you have, how many x-rays you have. And the way that we ensure this is by pulling the charts every morning. Now, some of you I know do not use paper charts. Everything's on a computer, EHR, EMR, that's your electronic health records and your electronic medical records. But you have to at least have a printout of some sort of what is going on during the day. Now, I tell you to do it in the morning. I know a lot of offices do it at the end of the day so that it's prepared in the morning. Everyone pulls their charts at night. I say not to do that, and here's why. Because when you come in the morning, you are going to take messages from the night before or from when closing time the day before. And you're going to have cancellations. You're going to have people that are rescheduling. And now you've pulled all of the charts, you've printed out what's going on for the next day, but now you have to do it all over again. So it's not time effective to do it the night before. That's why I suggest you do it in the morning. Now you do it however you want to do it. I'm just giving you tips and tools on how to do that. Before your patients come in, you want to go through the reception area and you want to make sure that it's clean, comfortable. There's not things lying around. There's a path to get to wherever the patients need to go. You don't want to run the risk of your patients getting injured simply by walking into your office. So that reception area has to be clean and spotless and comfortable so that your patients have the best experience. If you have patient education material, which I suggest that you do, make sure that it's easy to read. Have it in different fonts. Make it engaging. Make it something that the patients will want to pick up and read because sometimes, they're going to have to wait to see the doctor. So if they have something to do while they're waiting, this creates a better experience for your patients. If you have an information board, that's just a board you have in your office somewhere where you can tack up patient information or health, articles or whatever you're doing. I suggest that information board be educational, but also what the office is doing, fun things that the office has going on, different events that maybe you're going to be hosting. Have that all up on the information board. Make it interesting. So again, the patients have something to do while they're waiting, but also educate the patient what kind of things you have available to them to utilize. The appointment schedule. You need to have an appointment schedule printed out as well as on your computer because everything's on the computer, but you're not always going to be at your computer. So I suggest that you make a printout of your appointment schedule and everybody in your office has a copy of that appointment schedule. Whether it's the billing person, whether it's the front desk person, the doctor, the therapy staff, everybody has a copy of this appointment schedule so everyone is in tune with who is coming in, what they're coming in for, how much time you're going to need for each patient, what you're going to need for each patient. If you have this all done ahead of time, reducing risk and liability. Treatment rooms, treatment exam rooms, therapy rooms, exam rooms, any place where you're going to provide treatment to the patient, make sure in the morning that everything is there that you need. Pens, head roll paper, exam tools, whatever it is that you need, whatever your office does, everything is in that room and ready to go. When you're done with that patient, you're going to restock what you need. You're going to whatever you need to do to ensure that each patient, when they come in, everything is there for you to do what you need to do or the doctor does what they need to do. When you start out your day, the very first patient that walks in your office to the last patient that leaves your office, your attitude sets the tone for the day. You get to select your attitude. Nobody gets to select your attitude but you. And I know we have those patients that try us on all levels, but your job is to get a grip on that and really learn how to not allow those patients to affect your attitude, because someone else is coming into the office after that person. And if you're all flustered and aggravated when the next person comes in, that next person is going to have an awful experience in your office, and they're not going to want to stay with you. Their health is going to go down. Your attitude sets the tone. So by having those daily preparations, we talked about, the appointment schedule, the pulling of the charts, there has to be a flow to your day. And every day is different. I understand that. But if you have a flow to what you want your day to look like, this is going to be able for you to be able to avoid distractions. The more distractions you have during your day, the greater the risk that will ensue. So if you have a flow, if you know what to expect, if you have a plan, you're going to be able to avoid distractions. There are going to be setbacks in your office. I don't care how good of a planner you are. There's going to be things that go wrong. People are going to reschedule. People are going to cancel. People are going to show up without their material that they need. So make sure that you have a plan B. Make sure you have a plan C. Sometimes you need a plan D. Setbacks are going to happen. Plan for the inevitable. Overload. Overload happens when you are not prepared. You have to plan ahead. Overload creates chaos, creates confusion, and the patient is not going to have that wow experience that we want them to have. Their health is going to be affected by chaos and confusion. We all have sign-in sheets, whether that's a sheet, whether that's on the computer, whether your patient comes in with some sort of fob that they scan. Your patient signing in gives you a day of who's been in the office, and this way you can prepare for that patient day. A daily log at the end of the day will show all the patients that came in, what therapies were done, what adjustments were done, what techniques were done, all of that at the end of the day. This is going to ensure a proper flow per day in your office. I want to touch a little bit on the compliance manual. If you've been through the CCPA program, you are well versed in the compliance manual. But in regards to specifically risk and liability, the compliance manual is an absolute must. That compliance manual, if you're not familiar with what that is a manual, whether it's a binder, a 3-ring binder, or it's on your computer or what have you. It's a manual of everything that goes on in your office that you must be compliant with. It's a great way to start off on the right foot with management. This is where you keep all your procedures, all your training, all your policies. Everything can be recorded and stored in one place. I like to have a 3-ring binder because it's something, tangible. It's something that I can touch and open and read and flip through. That's just how I like to do it. Feel free to have your compliance manual on a computer, but make sure you know where it is and make sure it's easily accessible. It also needs to be in a secure location. So if you do keep it on your computer, make sure that your computer is password protected, and only the people with the password to get into the computer to read it, make sure only they have access to it. We don't want to keep this out where patients can see it or people who are not authorized can get a look at that. You should have a compliance officer. That compliance officer should be a job title in and of itself, meaning that person's sole job is to ensure that the office is compliant. This could be with HIPAA. This could be with anything that goes on in your office. Make sure everyone is being compliant. Make sure everyone is doing what they need to be do. Make sure that you have a procedure of things that need to be done. That person is in charge of everything. I do not like the CCPA front desk person to be the compliance officer. This is only because you have enough going on. The clinical person should not be the compliance officer because they have enough going on with their job. So you see how a job title in and of itself might be a good fit in your office. You don't have to do that, but it just makes sense. and make sure that person will be there. That means make sure if you're going to hire a compliance officer, make sure that person is there for the long haul. You don't want a new CA who's just going to leave in 6 months to be the compliance officer, because now the new compliance officer now has to be trained all over again. So someone that's been in the practice for a while, someone that knows everything about the office. That's how you get that compliance officer. What needs to be in your compliance manual? Everything. But let's kind of give you a taste of what should be in there. Employee training forms. Training is going to go on in your office forever. You're always going to be training on stuff. Everything in your office, you're always training on. So we have a log of what was the training about, who attended the training, what type of training that you did. Everyone's going to sign that. You're going to date it. You're going to stick it in your compliance manual. Employee guidelines. Every employee should have a job description of some sort that should be printed out and put into the compliance manual. That way, if there's any question about job duties and who's supposed to be doing what, you can look right at the compliance manual, flip open to, job duties and job titles, and look exactly and see what you should be doing. There should also be a list of limited access. What this means is not everyone has access to everything in the office. Who has access to what? Make a list of people of who has access to what and put that in your compliance manual. If you see someone somewhere where they shouldn't be, you could quickly look at that compliance manual, flip open to that section and see, is this person supposed to have access to this? No? Okay, well, I'm going to go and tell that person they should not be where they should be. If they think they have access, you can have a whole conversation with them about that. A continued training plan, continuing of monitoring. Like I said, training happens all the time and you should be training forever in your office. I suggest that you set specific times and specific dates to do your training. If you just, spring a training session on people, you're not going to be prepared. You're not going to have what you need to get the best out of the training. So set a time, set a date. It doesn't have to be all day. It could be a 5-minute training session, or it could be a half an hour or an hour. It could be whatever you want it to be, but set that date and time. As part of the continuing of monitoring, as part of that compliance manual, you should have a plan of audit. What this means is that you are pulling 5 random files per month. If they're on your computer, great. Check out the 5 files. If they're in a separate file room, pull 5 files. Look through those files. Look for signatures. Look for dates. Look for diagnosis codes. Look to make sure that the billing codes match the diagnosis codes. Make sure everything is in that file that needs to be in that file. If it is, great. Go on to the next file. If it's not, document what was missing. Document what you did to put back to the file what needs to be in the file. This is considered like a progress report. So if you find any issues, write them down, put them in the compliance manual, and then you're going to train on how to not have your file look the way it did and how it should look. Any type of disciplinary action should also be in your compliance manual. What is your disciplinary action? Now that's up to your office. I can tell you what we do in our office. We do the 3-strike rule. So if you do something wrong or you break a rule that we've had, we are going to tell you, we're going to verbalize that to you. But I'm still going to write it down that I talked to you about it, and that's going to go in the compliance manual. That's strike 1. If you do it again, then we're going to write you up, which is, again, writing it down, but now it's a written documentation of what happened. The person that did something wrong is going to sign it. The compliance officer is going to sign it. It's going to go in the compliance manual. Then the 3rd time this issue happens, you're done. You're terminated. You can no longer work in this office. But I'm still going to write that down, that happened, and I'm going to put it in the compliance manual. You have to have an updated report of any changes with staff. Again, those CAs that last those 6 months, and then you hire a new one, and then they leave, and you hire a new one, and then they leave. All of that has to be in that compliance manual. Who you hired, what their date of employment was, when they left. Show each time an employee is hired or fired. Part of that record management falls on that front desk CCPA position. It's one of your main responsibilities. So you have to ensure that every patient's record is accurate and you have to make sure that every patient's record is complete. Again, that goes back to the auditing of files. If you audit the files, just randomly, do it once a month. You don't have to do it all the time, but this gives you an idea of, is this record complete and accurate? Great, you're done for the month. Next month, you're going to go again, because you're going to have, the patients, you're going to have new patients. You're going to have patients come, you're going to have patients go. So this is a good way to ensure that those records are up to date. Record management requires continuous follow-through. So it's not just a one-time and you're done kind of thing. You're going to be doing this over and over and over, but that's a good thing. You want to ensure those records are complete. What if another office requests those records? What if a lawyer requests those records? What if an insurance company wants to do an audit on those records? In order to reduce that risk and liability of not having the records at optimum performance is auditing those files. So it not only includes making the file, in the beginning, a patient comes in, you have to make their file, but also having a system for where to put those files. Do you have quick access to those files if you need it? Are those files in a HIPAA compliant storage area? It could be in a closet, it could be in a file room, what have you, but that has to be HIPAA compliant. And handling these files, when you need to look at patient records, you need to look at them, get what you need, and put them right back. If you pull files and put them on the side, you're going to get busy. You're going to forget they were there, and they're not going to go back in the same place, or they're not going to go back at all. You're going to run the risk of losing those files. So touch the file, get what you need from it, put it away right away, or as soon as possible when you're done with them. You want to be able to save space. You don't want that file room to be a complete, chaotic environment. So 7 years is the rule to keep your records for 7 years. If a patient has not been in 7 years and they're an adult patient, you don't need to keep those files. You can shred those files. I suggest before you shred those files, perhaps scanning them and keeping them on a hard drive. You don't have to do this, but it's good practice. God forbid anything happens, you can go back and look at them. Reduce unnecessary files. You want one person making the files. If you have more than one person in charge of making files, creating those patient files, what happens is that you're going to have duplicate records. One person is not going to know that the other person already created that file. Now you have 2, sometimes 3 files for the same patient. Piece of paper is going to go in one file, not in the other file. Then another piece of paper is going to go in this file, but not the original file. And now you have files all over the place for the same person. So one person is in charge of making those files and ensuring that there's only one for each patient. You want to be organized. Put the files away on a daily basis. If you do not put them away as soon as you're done with them, then I suggest you have a place that you put those files. Put them in a bin, put them in one section, let them stack up, and then at the end of the day, not the next day, at the end of the day, you take that stack and you file them wherever they need to go. That's why I like to do them. When I'm done with them, I put it away right away because I don't want to do that work at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I'm tired. I want to go home. Why do I want to deal with a stack of records now? So however you do it, but do it. Eliminate the possibilities of missing or misplaced files. Do not take your files out of the office. This is common sense, but it bears repeating. You're not allowed to take files outside of the office anyway because now you're violating HIPAA. So just make it a rule, never take files from the office. Back in the day, you took your files home. You did your notes at home. We don't do that anymore because of HIPAA. So save time by knowing where all the files are stored. You have a procedure for files. Just like you have a procedure for everything else, you have a procedure for that. As a general rule, if information is not documented, it never happened. So we want to make sure we have a standard for all of our patient records. Complete, accurate, and well-documented records serve as evidence that the doctor provided the correct treatment, that the doctor provided medically necessary treatment, because you cannot treat a patient if it's not medically necessary. So this will serve as a record that you are following that rule. Another task of the CCPA, that front desk office, is collection of payments. The front desk you've got so much going on and now you're adding collections to that. Sometimes we run into, oh, that's okay. You know what? Catch me later. We never want that in our offices. Payment is expected. When the patient has to pay, you pay me. I don't know when payments became optional. We want to get rid of that. There are state and federal guidelines to collecting payments, so make sure that you know what those state and federal guidelines are for your particular state, and so that you know that you're following those rules. You have to have a procedure for collections. You have to expect payment. Don't accept excuses. Patients are going to come up with all kinds of excuses why they can't pay. Don't accept excuses. Everywhere in the world that you go, that you have that you go to buy something, or you go to for a service, you have to pay for that. Your office should be no different. Hold the patients responsible for that payment. There's some key elements of front desk collections. I want you to understand each person's role in that payment process. Is somebody collecting the money? Then somebody is dealing with insurance. Then somebody is billing. Everyone needs to know what everybody's doing when it comes to office collections. You have a financial policy. This financial policy is how you want the patient to pay. Will you make them pay before they see the doctor? Do they pay at the end of the visit? Are you collecting their co-pays, now? Do you want payment up front? Whatever your office does, there needs to be a procedure for handling the money. We need to review and update our patient information, meaning where do they live, their phone number, the demographics of the patients. If your patient has a balance and you need to collect that money from them, they need to be easily found so that you can collect that money, email addresses, things like that. You don't want to get to the point of having to send them to collections, because that's a whole other avenue, and it's just time out of your day that you don't want to deal with. So get it done when it needs to be done. Your co-payments or your patient's co-payments are mandatory. You don't have the option to collect those. You must collect those. And co-pays account for up to 20% of your office's revenue. So make sure that you are collecting those co-pays. So we all have problems, especially at the front desk. Problems increase risk and liability. So I want to talk to you about some common problems that all offices face. How about those patient campers? We love them. Those are the patients that come to the front desk, they sign in, and then they stay there and they don't leave. You have to have a procedure. This is not your area, patient. Your area is over there in the waiting area, so please go over there. Don't let them hang out at the front desk. Again, talking about HIPAA, there's a lot of things on your desk they can see. Go sit down. Thank you. Salespeople wanting to see the doctor, or salespeople wanting to just drop off some information so you can look at it later. Well, you probably have a no solicitation sign in your office. Just by that salesperson coming in without an appointment, they are now violating your no solicitation rule, but they're also violating HIPAA, or they can easily violate HIPAA. They are in a HIPAA compliant office without authorization. They are at the front desk and they're looking and they have access to seeing things that are on your office. So major HIPAA violation. If those salespeople would like to leave you pamphlets or anything like that, make them make an appointment. I can accept you coming in at this time, or I don't want you to come back, whatever that is. They make an appointment so that you maintain your HIPAA compliance. Children in your offices. A lot of us are pediatrics. We like to have those children that come in, but even if you don't have or don't treat children, patients have children. They're bringing in their kids to their appointments. You're not a babysitter. And the waiting area is not a daycare facility. So we welcome the children to come in, but someone needs to be responsible for those children. You don't want them getting hurt in your office. So if the patients are getting adjusted, or the patients are getting therapy or whatever, and there's children present, you may want to have a conversation with your patients that they need to bring somebody in to take care of those children while they're in the office. That's not your job. How about irritable patients? Well, why are they irritable? Is it because they have to wait for the doctor? Why are they waiting? What's going on with your schedule that's not a proper flow? That's part of what we're going to be training on. Handling phone calls. The phone is going to ring. I don't like the front desk person answering the calls, because the front desk CCPA is busy dealing with the patients. It would be great if we had a separate job where that person just answered the phone. That's a perfect world, and I know we don't live in a perfect world. So sometimes you're going to have to let those phone ring. I know your doctor doesn't like it when the phone is ringing, but sometimes we have to do that. That person in front of you is your main priority. Whoever's on the phone will have to wait. So let the answering machine get it. You can call them back right away if you need to, but just try not to answer the phones when you have a patient in front of you. Patients not wanting to pay. Again, when did that become optional? Patients have to pay. That's a problem. You have to be a master of your job. Mastery of the front desk ensures that you are reducing the risk and liability in your office. Things that'll drive your patients away if you do not have mastery of the front desk. Bad employees, negative attitudes, their perception of you, a bad first encounter. All of this ties into your job of running the office, not the office running you. So moving on to greetings and interactions as part of reducing risk and liability. We talk about this in the CCPA program, and I have a lot of students ask me, how does just saying hello to the patient increase my risk and liability in the office? Well, I'd like to talk to you about that. Simply having a rapport with your patients. I hate the word train your patients. Sounds like they're animals, but we're training our patients. We're training our patients from day one, what we need them to do in our office, how we want them to act, how they must act, what they need to bring, what they shouldn't bring. Your interactions with your patient sets the tone for that patient's, existence in your office, what they can and can't do. Everything you say, how you say it, even your body language is essential to your interaction with your patients. And again, in the CCPA program, we have a whole weekend on communication, how to properly speak with your patients. It's not just the words that are coming out of your mouth. It's the why behind the words coming out of your mouth. It's also how you say it. So your patients are going to have a certain perception of you and how you speak to them. I don't want you to be, condescending to them, and I don't want you to talk above their head. I want you to talk to them like people. But again, how you say it and everything you say is essential in those interactions. Everyone in your office, and that includes the doctor, everyone in your office has to practice what you're saying. I love the idea of role playing in your office. I love the idea of you guys getting together. One of you can be the patient, one of you can be the doctor, one of you can be the front desk CCPA, one of you can be the billing CCPA, whatever your job duties are in the office, but somebody has to be the patient. This way you can practice. If you're practicing being the patient, be that patient. Be that patient that's always asking questions or that's never bringing things in or canceling their appointment all the time. Because if you practice it amongst yourselves, then when it really happens, you're going to be better able to handle that situation. Have a procedure for how you're going to handle patients when problems occur, because we know problems are going to happen. Now, there's lots of practice management groups out there, and practice management groups like to use scripts. There's nothing wrong with using a script. We use scripts in our office as well. So there's nothing wrong with using a script. However, you don't want to sound like a robot. You don't want to read word for word from what that is. You need to say the words that are on the script, but here's the key to that. Everyone has to be saying the same thing. You can make it your own, but you can't make it your own so much that you're going way off script. So we want you to use the scripts if you're using scripts, but if you are, you need to practice, again, role playing what those words are, make it your own, and make it sound like you are saying those words, not just reading from a list of words that you were told, to say. You have to ask yourself why. You have to ask yourself why you are doing the things you're doing in your office. The why is always, 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 always more important than the what. So the what is your appointment. The what is the therapies you use. The what are the forms that you use. The what is the techniques your doctor uses. Those are all the what. Well, why are you doing all of those things that you do? Why do you say the words that you say? Why do you have that mission statement? Why is your doctor doing those therapies that they're doing? It all ties together. So why you do what you do and why you say what you say, you have to understand why you're doing that. And in order to understand that, you have to understand what a patient is. So I like to say a patient is the number one person in your office. Doctors like to think they're number one. Hi. CAs like to think they're number one. CCPAs like to think they're number one. We all work as a team. We're all number one. But really, who's number one is the patient. Without the patient, you have no office. You have no practice. You have nothing without the patient. So the patient is the number one person in your office. And because the patient is the number one person in your office, you have to understand what a patient is. They are not an interruption of your work, although lots of times they interrupt our work. They are the purpose of our work. You can be the best chiropractic office in the universe. Your doctor can be the top doctor of all times. They could have gone to the best schools. They could do all the best treatments. You could have the best therapies, the newest, the greatest, everything. What is that without a patient, right? So the patient is the most important person in your office. You have to be able to think like a patient. If you're going to interact with your patients, then you've been a patient before. You've seen a healthcare professional at some point in your life. So you can think like a patient because you've been a patient. What does a patient want? What does the patient look for when they are determining what office to go to? You know, there's plenty of chiropractic offices to go to. Why are they going to your office specifically? You have to be able to offer them something that's better than the other offices that are out there. They have to choose you for a reason. So how do you get your patients to do that? By thinking like a patient. So let me give you some insights about what a patient is looking for when they're coming to your office. From the office, they are looking for a clean, comfortable office where they feel at ease. There's not a lot of chaos and confusion going on. There's not a lot of noise. It's a nice place to be. They look forward to coming into that office. We want to have things that the patients can do while they're waiting. We don't want the patient to wait too long, but let's face it, patients are going to have to wait at some point. So what is there to do? Is there a video to watch? Is there reading material? We go back to that information board that they could go and look at and see what's going on. If you're going to have videos, try to have videos that are pertaining to health. It's okay to play movies and things like that, but movies show a lot of, drugs and cigarette smoking and all these kind of things, and that's not what we're about. So if you're going to show movies and videos, just try and keep it, health related. If you have magazines in your office, I suggest that you do not use the most common magazines, like People Magazine or Time Magazine. First of all, talk about increasing your stress. But second of all, there's a lot of advertisements in those magazines that are off-brand to what you're trying to give to your patients. You want to make sure that you are easily accessible and in a easy-to-find location. These are some of the things that patients are looking for an office when they're picking the chiropractor that they want to go to. From the staff, patients are looking for staff that are friendly, knowledgeable, able to answer their questions. They want someone to greet them immediately. There's nothing worse than going into any place of business, but there's nothing worse than going in and feeling like, does anybody see me? Did they even know that I came in? So when your patients come in, you want to greet them immediately. Hi, hey, come on in. Oh, it's so great to see you. Welcome. Whatever it is that you're going to say, patients love to be greeted immediately. You don't have to call them by name. You could just say a quick, hello, or a wave, or something that acknowledges their existence when they walk in the office. This is a great way to make that great first impression. Now, from the doctor, they're looking for a doctor that is personable, a doctor that introduces themselves. Hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. Maybe a handshake. Maybe you hug. I don't know what you do in your office, but You want to make that patient feel welcomed. You do not have to, pat them on the back and make them feel so important. They need to be made, they need to make them feel important, but you don't want to overdo it. So docs, we always suggest that you at least introduce yourself and introduce them to whoever you're passing them off to. So let's say they're going to see you first as the doctor, and then you need to pass them off to your CCPA to do some sort of therapy or modality, or maybe to take x-rays or whatever it is in that office. You want to introduce them to the staff that you're passing them off to. Now passing you off to Jennifer, she's my CCPA. She's going to take you back to do those x-rays. Compassion. Compassion is huge. Especially in chiropractic, but compassion is huge for any healthcare brand. You want to make sure that you are treating your patients with compassion and respect. The patients are looking for that, and if you can give that to them, they're better able to stay with you and get the care that they need. Patients want our help. They came to you for a reason. They came to you probably because they're in pain. So they're looking to you to help them get out of pain, to get healthy, whatever it is that they're coming to you for. So they feel that there's something wrong with them. And if there's something wrong with them, they're relying on you as the CCPA or as the doctor to help get them out of the situation that they're in. So if they're coming to you because of health, if they're in pain, then they feel that they're not healthy, right? If they're not healthy, then they're coming to you for that. Well, what is health then? As a CCPA, you understand that health goes beyond pain. It's how our nervous system is functioning and how our organs are functioning. But the patient doesn't understand that. They haven't had the benefit of going to the CCPA program or the benefit of becoming a doctor to know exactly what health is. So each of you might have a different definition of what health actually is. But on its basic level, health is the most priceless possession of every living thing. The average patient thinks that when they don't have pain, they're healthy. And when they do have pain, they're not healthy. So we have to somehow educate our patients that yes, sometimes, but you can look and feel great and not be healthy. You have to understand the patient's view of health. The patient's view of health is so important because it determines if they follow the treatment plan. It determines if they're willing to pay for care. It determines how serious they take their condition. It determines if they're willing to make lifestyle changes. They're in your office for such a short amount of time. They have, 23 hours of the day left to do whatever it is they do. And they're going to have to make some lifestyle changes. How they view their health is going to determine if they're willing to make those lifestyle changes that they need to make. Going back to the why, the number one reason a patient does not stay with you, the number one reason why a patient is not following the treatment plan, the number one reason why a patient is not paying for care is because they don't understand what's going on in the office. They don't understand the care that they're receiving. That is why your interactions with your patients is vitally important. The very first interaction that you have with your patient is most likely going to be on the phone or when they come in, for their visit. So we have to be able to wow our patients. We have to be able to make it so awesome when they come in that they're going to listen to what we have to tell them. You'll be able to train them to be that patient that you want them to be. Interaction, again, doesn't just mean the words that you're saying. What do the patients see? What do they smell? What do they hear? This is all part of giving the patient that wow experience. What do your patients see when they come into your office? Do they see it clean? Do they see chaos and confusion? Do they see happy patients? Do they see aggravated patients? What do they see? First impressions are everything. What do your patients hear? Make no mistake that your patient is listening to everything that's going on in the office. They're listening to how you speak to other patients. They're listening how patients are talking to the doctor. They're listening to how the doctor's talking to the patients. They hear everything. Is it inviting? Is it welcoming? Also about the music that you might be playing in your office. You don't want a lot of loud music in the office. You want something calming, something that can put the patient at ease. We don't really think about smell in the office. What do your patients smell when they come in the office? We don't want it to smell too clinical, but we don't want it to smell too, flowery and overpowering. So a nice scent. You can use a diffuser. Go ahead and use candles if you want, but just make sure that you're not overpowering the smell in the office. Plus, a lot of our patients, are maybe have allergic reactions to certain smells. So we want to keep it just calm and inviting. Greeting your patients, going back to that interaction, that greeting your patient, you should always greet your patients, even if they've been coming into your office for years, even if they've been your patient for 20 years. When they walk through that door, you are so excited to see them, whether they're a brand new patient or whether they're an existing patient. Greet them when they come in the door. Greet them by name every time they come in. This gives them a sense of ownership in the practice, gives them ownership of their health, and allows them to understand what's going on. Even if you have a new patient, you don't know who they are, you're not going to know every patient that comes in your door. But let's just say you have a female patient that's coming in at 9 o'clock, and a female walks in your office at 9 o'clock and you have no idea who that person is. Well, most likely that's the new patient you were expecting. Now you already have a printout of who's coming into your office, right? Going back to that. So more than likely, that's that person. Jennifer, is that you? Great, come on in. Your patient is going to be like, how the heck did they know my name? All part of that wow experience. It's important that you be not just a person behind a desk. You're the person that patient is going to come to for whatever they need, and they're going to understand their care. Because remember, the number one reason why a patient leaves your office is because they don't understand what's going on. You need to be able to create the patient that you want. Make that spectacular first impression. Your goal is to have an office filled with compliant patients who value their care, who value their health, who pay for their care. That's nice. So your interactions with the patient helps to ensure that we continue to run the office and not the other way around. Because once you let your office run you, that risk and liability shoots through the roof. Patients who get it are the patients that we want. We want all of our patients to be educated patients. Make sure that no patient leaves your office with any questions that need to be answered. Answer all of their questions. You may have to spend extra time to do so, but if so, it's worth the extra time to make sure that your patients understand everything that's going on in the office. An educated patient is a patient who follows your treatment plan, who pays for care, and refers other people to come into your office. Those are the patients that we want in our office. You want to make sure that you're treating all of your patients with respect. Treat every patient how you would like to be treated. Remember, you've been a patient before. You know how you would like to be treated. So treat your patients the same, exactly how you would like to be treated. Make sure those interactions with your patients is how you want it to be. You need to be able to do the right thing. If you sense something is wrong, it probably is. By this point, as a CCPA, you have been with your office and you know the flow of your office. You know when something is not quite right. So be in tune with your office. If you feel something is off, say something. Go to your superiors, whatever that means in your office, but do the right thing. Ensure patient safety in your office. We know mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. You're going to make mistakes. If you haven't already made a mistake, it's coming. Okay, you made a mistake. It's a learning experience. You're going to mark it up to a learning experience. You're going to role play. You're going to train, and you're going to ensure that that mistake does not happen again. The key is to take responsibility of your mistakes and learn from them so that you don't make that mistake again. Learn from your patients. You're going to learn the reasons why your patients get frustrated or that they're super excited to be in your office. So learn from your patients. Get to know your patients. Talk to your patients. Make them part of their own healthcare team. That's one of the keys to success with keeping that patient in your office when they have ownership in their own healthcare. We want our staff to have ownership in the practice. We want our patients to have ownership in their healthcare. And then lastly, we want you to be engaged. You have to be engaged in all aspects of patient care. That means that you, as the CCPA, whatever position you have, you must know all job duties, all job titles. Not that you're going to do all of the jobs in the office, but if you have knowledge of everything that's supposed to be going on, you can reduce that risk and liability in your office. You can ensure patient safety, and you can ensure that the patient is getting the care that they need, and your patient will have a greater appreciation for their experience in your office. So hopefully this has given you some more information about how to reduce your risk and liability in your office, specifically geared towards the position of the CCPA. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have an amazing day. To stay connected, visit our website, www.chiropracticeducationalnetwork.com, or follow us on social media.